Hi and welcome to the Martin Bell Show. Hopefully you've been keeping well, and in the video today we're going to be reading through a news article from the Daily Mail online from the money section of this newspaper, and it's going to be about how can I find a letting agent who won't let tenants run riot in my home while I'm abroad for work. So basically they want to protect their property from damage or reckless behaviour, so that they don't have a huge expense from obviously if something happens, and more likely the person who did do that will probably bail or quit, or probably doesn't have the funds to do up the property themselves for the damage that they caused, because they probably might not. So he's just this person here is just thinking really rightly on how they can protect their investments. So I have to let out my flat because I'm moving abroad for work for a couple of years. So this is good. This person is thinking ahead and planning ahead and thinking, what can I do to have some more income in so that I can keep my property and it pays for itself, and I have some more passive income coming in if it cash flows, or just or if it just breaks even. Hopefully it would cash flow, because you're taking some risk there. So the last time I did this, the flat got pretty bashed up by the tenants. Not just a bit of wear and tear, because it's probably because they don't care, because it's not their property. Personally, I would never be that disrespectful and damage someone else's property. Even if I was renting their property, I would take good care of it, as well as I would want, not just because I want my deposit back, because it's more of an ethical thing. It's more of an ethical thing to do. So the letting agency was meant to manage everything for me while I was away and couldn't do it myself, but I didn't appear to have taken much interest in cleaning it up and properly remaking it until I intervened and came back to resolve the situation. So this person's been burnt once before, and now they want to be a bit more cautious, which is a smart thing to be. So this will enable them to be a bit more cautious. So I'm about to have a set of agencies to have a look around. Are there any giveaway questions I should ask, or telltale signs I should look out for when I'm interviewing the agents to work out if they will find a better tenant and do more to look after my flat? So yes, if you're paying them to protect your property and protect the asset, they should be protecting the asset and making sure they're doing their own due diligence when finding a tenant that they are a good tenant with a good ethics and they won't damage the property and will pay the bills. So it's my home and I'll be moving in again when I get back. So they don't want it ransacked or damaged or banged up too much. They want it maybe a little bit of damage, but they will say within reason. But this person is rightly being a bit cautious and writing in just to find out what they can do. So Helen Crane of This Is Money replies, handing over the keys to your home to someone else can be hard, especially if they are just keeping it warm for a short while you are working away. A good managing agent should take away some of the stress, ensuring your property is well taken care of while dealing with issues that come up. For a lost set of keys to a broken boiler, to find a new tenants is becoming empty. So yes, I'm just a little brief update. I've now actually upgraded my phone so I can actually do wireless charging. I have to say I highly recommend it. It does make life a lot easier, and I'm actually much preferring it. I know that's a massive sidetrack, but I may to talk about my a room tour a bit later when things are fixed more in my room. So for your peace of mind, but you also want to be kept in the loop with regular inspections and updates, and it's very important that they do regular inspections to making sure that the property is kept up to top shape and up to par and is well looked after. This is especially important for you as you will be out of the country for long periods of time, and it sounds as if your previous agent let you down in this area. You'll also be paying them a pretty penny for the privilege, so you need to know that they are going to do a good job. So if you're going to be paying a decent fee, you expect a decent standard of them caretaking the property whilst you are away. So according to an insurer, Simply Business, landlords can pay anywhere between about 12% and 20% of the monthly rent are collected on their management agent depending on the level of service they require. There will also be a one-off fees for like finding new tenants and referencing. So you don't want a short-term lease if possible. You want to probably, if you're going away for 2 years, if it's possible to do like a yearly lease, or hopefully you'd be able to find like a 2-year lease if that would be ideal. So you wouldn't have to keep finding paying off the fees for finding decent tenants. I asked 4 property experts the questions that they would ask a prospective managing agent to sort wheat from the chaff, and they come up with the following advice. Get recommendations and that they have, and check online reviews. So are they a reputable company? I would say what that means. Have they had good recommendations? Do they have good due diligence? What are their views? What do people using their services think of them, and do they recommend to use them or stay well clear, which is not what you want. So when you are searching for agents to interview for the job, a glowing recommendation can help you decide which firm should be at the top of the pile. If you know any other landlords or perhaps colleagues you have also worked abroad, ask them if they use letting or management agents and whether they were happy with them. However, you will first want to check that they have similar properties to yours on their books. If they're used to managing students' houses, so hopefully if they're managing students' houses, oh my god, they're probably really ransacked sometimes. I'm not saying it's a stereotype, but they are quite a bit sometimes. So on working for large portfolio landlords, for example, they might not have the right set up for your flat. You should be able to get a feel for this by looking at their website or giving them a call to ask. Firstly, pinpoint 3 local agents that service your area and that have similar properties to your home, says Lara Branley, head of letting a property development and managing Strawberry Star. So yes, you don't just want to go to one person, you want to go to multiple people, maybe 3. And if there's some more, if you still feel unsure, maybe doing even a few more if you wish to do so. Doing more due diligence never harms you, it just makes it means maybe more upfront work. But if that gives you more reassurance and you think you found the better deal and it makes you more happy with yourself, that is worth within itself. So most of our businesses is from referrals, so try and partner with an agent who has been recommended to you. Then do your research on all of them. Online reviews are also a useful tool. Look at independent sites such as Trustpilot and Google Reviews, but bear in mind that reviews can still be faked. So if all the reviews are really glowing and they've all been posted on the same day and the person's created the account on the same day as the review and they're all stuck together on the same day, it does sometimes look very suspicious. Otherwise from them doing it themselves or malicious actions trying to harm their reputation. That's something to still look in mind, and then you have to dig further to find out which one it is. Hopefully it's the latter and it's some other third party just being mean, which is sad to see, but hopefully that's the case. So the first step to finding a good managing agent is checking reviews, says Jack Raid, founder and director of estate agent Orlando Reed. The agent should have a good number of high quality reviews, specifically mentioning management. Although it may be laborious going through hundreds of reviews, it should save the heartache of choosing an agent who doesn't look after your property well. If I'm paying them to look after my property and I'm paying a hefty upfront fee, like 20%, I want to make sure that they're on the ball at all times and they're taking good care of the tenant and the property, and they're collecting the rent and paying them, making sure everything's managed well. So however good their services is, most agents will get negative reviews from time to time. How quickly and professionally they respond to these is a good indication of their competence. So if there is a problem, which is going to happen because life, there's always going to be something happening that they don't always get right or something goes wrong, but if they respond in a reasonable amount of time or very quickly and their response is well formulated and they say this is what we're going to do to resolve the issue, or what else can we do to help improve the situation, then that does give you a good indicator that they are going to be a good company to be going with. That is not the sole indicator, but it's a very good indicator. With online reviews, look out for when the agent takes the time to respond to any negative feedback and tries to resolve these issues. Bradley says look out for more recent reviews, ones during the pandemic, which is interesting. I hadn't thought of that before, which is quite an interesting one to think of. Make sure they have the right qualifications. Another easy way to rule out agents is by discarding those who don't have any professional qualifications, or do bear in mind that these are voluntary and not required by a law. Some agents with many years of experience may not have these qualifications. Yes, qualifications are going to be useful, but not always. If they have good integrity and they know what they're doing, that can be far more important than just having the qualification, and they have life experience within that. Make sure the property manager is an ARLA qualified, so they are fully up to date with all legal requirements. So I didn't know that, so that will be something I have to bear in mind if I ever do want to use a letting agent, if I ever do get into real estate and letting it out. The job is to protect you, says David Mumbai, head of Prime Central London Lettings at the estate agent Knight Frank. ARLA Property Mark is a professional body for letting agents and has more than 17,500 member firms. While the property industry is not regulated, ARLA members are voluntarily agreed to provide company information to organisation every year to demonstrate transparency. So that is very good that they have transparency, and that's what you do want, a very transparent thing, because you are giving them the keys, as well as you want to make sure that they are going to be looking after the property and making sure the tenant is a right fit for your property. So this includes and they actually take good care of the tenant. If there's a problem, they get the problem resolved quickly, so they take good care of the tenant too, which is also really important, and they also make sure that you get the money. So this includes details of their standard tenancy agreement, money laundering checks, and data protection policies, for example. It is also worth doing some background research on the company and their staff level of experience, perhaps by looking at reviews at Glassdoor on LinkedIn. Says Bradley, you want to understand the size of the team and their collective experience. If everyone has been in the office for a good number of years, it's an indicator that the office is happy and they like being there, and the customers are happy as well, as good people tend to stay, which is also what you really, really want. So check their workload. So are they taking on too many properties? I'm thinking that might mean. You also want to find out how many homes each member of staff is responsible for. So if they have many properties to be responsible for, they may not always be able to get to your property as in that when they're in a reasonable amount of time. So they don't want to be overburdened with properties, as you don't want your flat generally getting forgotten by overworked agent. Mabe says it should be no more than 100 per agent, while Bradley puts her estimate at 150 to 200. So okay, Mumby is a bit more conservative. Maybe if he's taken on properties that have more problems, then maybe yes, you should lower the number. If they run themselves and everything's hunky dory normally, then maybe that number can be increased. But you never know. I don't know how much experience in physical real estate. The only real estate I am invested into is REITs at the moment, mainly through ETFs and one single stock. Not an ETF, a single stock REIT, which is I'll talk about in another video. So, how many properties they manage in their portfolio and how many staff she says. If they have 300 properties and only one property manager on the ground, this should be sending alarm bells or like a red flag. Bing! and ask about their inspection policy. In addition, you should find out how many times the agent will plan to visit your home for an inspection, if you appointed them. How many times will the property manager visit the property, and will it be the actual property manager, or is this outsourced? If it's personally for me, if it was outsourced, I wouldn't be very happy, because you never know who's coming in from the outsourcing. Hopefully you get someone great, but you might not. So I'd rather have them doing it directly, so they can't outsource it. Personally, that's what I would want. Mumbai says I would look for at least 2 visits per year. So that probably means every 6 months, or maybe sometimes more. So maybe every quarter, once every 3 months. Every quarter, every year. So that'd be 4 times a year, once every 3 months, maybe more if it's a problematic one. But then, would you really want them in your property if you're having to visit more regularly? So you might need to pay extra for more regular inspections, but it would be worth it for the peace of mind that your home is being treated well. Rage suggests asking for quarterly inspections to encourage your tenants to keep the flat in good nick, and that's what I just said. I didn't read ahead, so that was very lucky, or hopefully good insight on myself. But yeah, that's what it's quite interesting to read about this. Actually, some of the things I didn't even know about much into property, but this is actually really, really interesting. So we're looking more into property later, and I'm looking forward to learning with you more as well. So this is normally a cost related to this. However, the fact that the tenant knows mid-term inspections will take place through the tenancy will encourage them to maintain the property and keep it in good condition. Otherwise, they could be evicted, probably, eventually, or they may have to pay for the damage, or they may not get their tenant agreement renewed. They may be moved on. The agent should provide you with reports after each inspection to keep abreast of any issues with or damage to the property. Ask your prospective agents whether these will include pictures, if that is important to you. Since the pandemic began, some agents have been taking videos to send to the landlords who aren't able to visit the properties themselves, which I personally don't see a problem with, so that they can show them and reassure them that the property is being taken good care of. We have started doing video reports over lockdown, and that's been very well received by the landlords. An additional layer of transparency and confidence, says Bradney. Grill them on current regulations. Grilled. The pandemic has led to various changes in the rules of surrounding rented properties, particularly when it comes to evictions and the notice period landlords need to give before the evicting tenant. I'm really sorry if you can hear that in the background. There is a car regularly now comes past our house practically every day or every other day, blaring their awful music. I don't know why they like to hear that. I don't want to hear it. Maybe they should go to where they live and just blare it around their neighbours and see. They wouldn't like it very much. So it's like, I don't want to hear you. I don't want to hear. You don't want to hear my music. I don't want to hear your music. That's just a side rant. And that's also part of being about a good neighbour and a good tenant, is not doing what that person just did there. So, Chris Morris, head of lettings at estate agent Clarkton, says he provides you with a good opportunity to check an agent is up to speed on the regulations. The agent should be able to confirm the amount of notice required to the end of the tenancy. He says, this has changed numerous times recently owing to the coronavirus, so it's an opportunity for the agent to demonstrate they have a good command of current legislation. Currently, the tenant should get to 2 weeks' notice of eviction date and 4 months' notice before the court proceedings can start. So they have plenty of notice, so they can, if they have to, it doesn't go their way, they'd start looking elsewhere. But also maybe it should make them reevaluate their life decisions. Maybe they should make better decisions, not damage the property, and if that is that, or if they've been antisocial, making too much noise, or not respecting the other tenants, if it's that HMO, or whatever it is, if they've lost their job, then maybe they need to come to some sort of an arrangement so that later they can pay it back. Ask how they carry out references and invent inventories. The vast majority of disputes between landlords and tenants occur because of disagreements about the condition of the property and how much of a deposit should be paid back, as you unfortunately found out when you let your home previously. This is why finding out an agent carries an investor's inventories is crucial. The process must be robust and incredibly thorough, says Bradley. For this to happen, we use an external agency, as in case of this dispute they can act as an independent neutral party. So that's quite interesting. I didn't know about that sort of thing, about having a more neutral independent third party. So often having an external inventory and check out agency can remove the need for multiple back and forths. So it adds like a third party, so it's not. So this is an external person saying this, so it has a bit more clout. So often having an external info checks that agent can remove the need for multiple back and forth, as it elicits much more trust in the process from both the tenant and the landlord. Hopefully your next tenancy will run smoothly, and fingers crossed for this person, and touch my wooden table. But in case it doesn't, you may also wish to ask what the agent's track record is deposit disputes that end up going to court. If the agent says they have had 5 claims on deposits, they've won 3, that's considered pretty good in the industry. So maybe if it's like a prime property for you, I'd maybe think about, would you really want to rent it out to someone? Will they be a good steward for your property, even though you've given them a good home and looking after them for a while and have somewhere to live? That's nice. Will they be a good steward for your property for this short period of time that you're away for? So, relative to the number of properties to their books, says Bradley, claims often rest on how thorough the initial inventory is. It's pretty standard that a 1-bed property can have a check-in report 40 pages long. So this probably means they check on everything. So maybe like the plug sockets, like the tables, the furniture, everything in the room is logged per item per room. What's fixed, what's damaged. So that's quite interesting. I didn't know it would be 40 pages long. That's quite interesting actually. Tell them finding a good tenant is your priority. And it is. It's a fundamental one, I would think. From your message, it seems that finding a respectful tenant is perhaps more important to you than securing the highest possible rent. And that, I would agree with that as well. I'd rather have a very good tenant that I'm on good terms with, and they respect the property and respect if it's a HMO, and if it was, the other tenants, as well as the surrounding community and the neighbours, and they take great care of the property. So managing agents are often instructed to do the latter, so be clear about what you want to get out of this letter, let in an agreement, and ask them how they can find you the kind of tenant you're looking for. The landlord should look for a managing agent that places a lot of focus on securing a highly appropriate tenant and has the capability to do this. Some agents think that landlords are only motivated by achieving the highest possible rent, and that has true. You want to achieve good rent, but you also want someone who's going to look after the property. There's no point achieving the highest rent if the property is going to get damaged or severely damaged, and then that has to be rectified before the new tenant comes in. Or if you move, or in this case, when this person comes back, you don't want to come back to a damaged property. So the landlord should ask for examples of similar properties by the agent and what types of tenants they attracted. Asking about the references process will be crucial to this. Some may handle it in-house, while others will outsource it to an external company. To make sure your rental income is secure, a credit check should always be included according to Bradley. An experienced credit check should always be carried out. The tenants have to earn 2.5 times the rent to pass the affordability check. This is the bare minimum. Trust instincts and first impressions. After spending some time interviewing agents, you should start to get a feel for their service and responsiveness. How quick have they been to respond, and what have their services levels been so far? If you're having to chase them at this stage, or they are unprofessional, stay well clear. Trusting your gut as instinct might also come into play here. If the landlord develops a good rapport with one of the agents and generally feels that they are the best person to look after their home and best protect their interests, they are likely to be right more often than not. Meet the tenant before you leave. Once you have appointed your agent and have found a tenant for you, try to arrange to meet them if your moving schedule allows. Ultimately, it is the tenant who you are entrusted with your home to day and putting a face to their name, and will get your relationship off to a good start. You could also use this as an opportunity to show them that things work in the property, where they can find the stock cock and gas and electric meters, and to explain any quirks. To give our landlords more confidence they have been chosen the right tenant, I'd always advise that they meet their tenants in person before the contract starts, says Bradley. By meeting each other, you become a real human beings, and therefore they are much more likely to show respect for the property. So this also means that if you're coming to meet this person, that means you're going to be respectful to this person, be courteous and kind, and helpful to them. Being able to explain that it is your family home as opposed to a faceless landlord just taking their money, and often marks the start of a special relationship where more empathy usually follows on both sides. Well, that's also the case, because then that person actually knows, like, I'm going to be away for 2 years, and then we're going to be more understanding, more likely to take good care of it. Because if it's just like a rental, a buy to let, or a rental one, it's like, this person's just getting my money, and people are less likely to care. So the comments are quite long, so I won't read them all. So hopefully you found this video informative. I learned some new interesting things I didn't know before. So hopefully you have too. If you found this video informative and you've liked it, then please feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Clicking the bell notification button gets you notified when I next release a video. Hopefully you found this video useful, and I look forward to seeing you all soon.